Colleagues, we're now going to hear from representatives of the Endangered Species Foundation. We've got Adam and Natalie and Tawera. So welcome to the committee. We've got 10 minutes. We're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. Members have had an opportunity to read your written submission. How we use the 10 minutes is up to you. So without any further introductions, I'm looking forward to one of you kicking off and getting started. So over to you. Thanks very much.
Natalie, do you just want to give an overview of our submission, then I'll talk after you? If that's okay?
Yeah, sure. So kia ora koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. My name is Natalie Jessup from the Endangered Species Foundation, Tāngaro Tuia te ora. I'm the General Manager there, and Tawera Nikau is our co-chair, and Adam Simperingham has joined us as our lawyer today as well. So, greetings to you all. In summary, we submitted against the fast track bill due to the impacts that it has not only on our environment and our endangered species, but also because of the lack of consultation that it has with communities, particularly iwi Māori and locals that live in particular areas. I won't go into a lot of detail because you would have read our submission, but today Tawera is going to talk about the process that he has been through with Sleepyhead, the development in Ohinawai. Then I'll talk about a local example that we have been campaigning on in regards to sand mining at Mangawhai Pakari. And then Adam will talk about the legalities of this process as well. So I'll just hand over to Tawera.
Kia ora tātou ni atu kia koutou katoa kāli te mei kāna te aro mātou kōrero hi tēnei. Kia ora everyone, my name is Tawera Nikau. I'm the co-chair of the Tāngaro Tuia te ora, which is the Endangered Species Foundation. I wanted to come from a different perspective and give you a bit of insight into the relationship that we had with the Turner brothers, Craig and Graham Turner, who are developing the Sleepyhead development down at Ohinawai, which was previously a dairy farm and now is going to be a factory and up to 1,200 houses in that area. So one of the key things with that project is that we had early engagement with the developers, the Turner family. They came to our local marae, which is 3 kilometres up the road from where they were building this new development, and we sat down and we talked to them from a historical, cultural and environmental perspective. But we could get to a relationship and a partnership in terms of how we were going to move forward with this, and we ended up supporting the fast track bill through the process. But previously to that, we'd sat down. So before they even started, 3 years before the project even got off the ground, we had engaged with them early on to give the historical context to this development, the area, the environment, and also the cultural significance in Waikato Tainui in terms of the area that they were in. So early engagement was really important. We built a relationship, and then we had a partnership with them right through this process. And out of that, we've been able to have some really great outcomes. They've been consented up to a certain stage. We're just waiting on some of the stuff. The thing that's holding this development up, because we realise that the economic development of manufacturers in New Zealand is really important to us as a country and us moving forward together. The jobs, the opportunities, the training is really important, but what we wouldn't compromise on was our cultural and environmental outcomes that were made very, very clear from the start. So I just really wanted to highlight, and we've had a great relationship. The project is getting along, but we opened part of the factory a few weeks ago. There's the second stage what they're going on to now. And so I think from a iwi and mana whenua perspective, having that early engagement was really, really important and very valuable. We got to know them, we got to know their families, because this is an intergenerational investment that they were investing in our rohe and in our region. So, and then when the fast track process came through in COVID, we had mana whenua, we had hapu, we had our marae and iwi support this project because we knew that there were some non-negotiables that they'd agreed to. Out of this 160 hectare development, 60 hectares of that would be being restored into wetlands. And there was some of that area around the cultural significance, Te Mana o Te Wai, although to the treaty. So there was a lot of stuff that we talked about, and they really understood what it was. So one of the reasons why we're not supporting the fast track bill is because that wouldn't happen to any of the future projects if you're just going to have the ministers make those decisions in terms of that. So we're very concerned as mana whenua, as hapu and iwi, around what would be happening in that space if you weren't being able to engage and have that relationship right from the get-go. But I just really wanted to highlight that for you guys as a committee in terms of that, because we got to a stage where we had this trust in the relationship, and because they had listened to everything that we had spoken about. So I don't want to go on too much. I know Natalie and we have a few other things to say, but is there any questions from the committee that they might like to ask?
Well, maybe before we do that, Adam, I can see Adam and Natalie, do you have anything further you want to add by way of oral submission?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to talk about the Mangawhai Pakari and the sand mining that's been happening up there. So that area is home to 26 at-risk or endangered birds, and for 80 years Ngāti Manuhiri have been fighting that sand mining. And in more recent years there's been a massive uprising from community groups in the area. And in April of this year, the Environment Court declined long-term mining consents in that area, and that was thanks to iwi, environmental groups, communities, scientists and government agencies who produced a lot of evidence to say that it was having a detrimental effect. And really key was during this process, a member of the public, Damon Clapshaw, discovered that there were trenches that were 3 metres deep, 15 metres wide and 3 kilometres long, which contradicted the sand mining company's reports. So if the commissioners or the courts had relied on that information that the McCullum brothers had provided, then the depth of those trenches would never have been discovered. We also found that the company wasn't providing accurate information about the amount of sand that was being replenished in the area. And also they really sugarcoated the relationship that was being held with mana whenua and tangata whenua in the area. So yeah, out of that process, it was, really highlighted that the company failed to disclose really crucial information about environmental and cultural impacts. And yeah, I think if this bill passes, there's going to be continued civil unrest. It's really going to grow because there's so many people across the country who are really opposed to our voice being taken away, and also for evidence to be presented and for decisions to be made in a really informed and collaborative way. So it might improve efficiencies in the short term, but in the long term, there's going to be some really major problems that come out of it. I'm just going to quickly hand over to Adam, who's going to summarise the legalities.
Yes, kia ora tātou. I'm conscious of the time, so I'll keep my submission very brief. Just to talk about what's been said already, including by the previous speaker, Rhiannon Ledra. Basically, from a legal perspective, I'm concerned that this piece of proposed legislation will override legislation like the Reserves Act and Conservation Act and Wildlife Act, which already have comprehensive and robust processes to comprehensively assess, mitigate and avoid negative effects. And these statutes do so on the basis on an evidence-based approach. My concern is that this proposed legislation will have a short-term economic benefit for the developers, but a long-term detriment to the environment. And we're here on behalf of the Endangered Species Fund, and I'm concerned that there might be short-term gains that this legislation brings to the business people, but that essentially those gains will be short-lived, and extinction of species is going to be something that lasts forever. Those are my submissions.
Thank you all very much. I'm just going to use the chair's prerogative to ask a question, so I don't do that very often. In your submission, you say that you've got thousands of supporters, but you don't tell us how many members you have. I'm just keen to know how many members, and also I'm keen to know how the foundation is funded, please.
Yeah, sure, I can answer that. In the past 2 years, I couldn't tell you the exact number of supporters, but we've had 639 donations to our organisation. We also apply for funding applications, and we have one collaborative partner, Benito's Organic Chocolate, and they give us a small donation every year.
Thank you, Natalie. Scott Willis has got a question.
Thank you. Thank you for a very wide-ranging submission. Really appreciate it. And since you've had experience of the previous COVID recovery fast-track process, what are the key differences with this fast-track legislation that you think are troubling and are concerning, and that you would like us to change or to see rejected?
Well, I think, Scott, one of the key things is that engagement with mana whenua and iwi in terms of that stuff, because without that, CBN wouldn't have got off the ground if we didn't have that early engagement. So, you know, the treaty, the principles of the treaty, understanding what that was, and so those are the key things, Scott, without dancing around the bush, because 3 years before they even started, the Turner family came and sat with us and said, this is what we'll do, how can we do this together? And that was great, you know what I mean? And I think if we can get to that early engagement, have mana whenua and iwi, and the outcomes for us was more around the cultural and environmental outcomes. There's some non-negotiables for us in terms of our water and our whenua, and that's the really important part. And so they mitigated all that stuff, so we were able to support them through the fast-track process.
Terrific. Look, thank you very much. We've come to the end of the time available for the submission, but can I thank the three of you for making time out of your day to come and present to us, and also thank you for the effort and work that you put into your written submissions. All very helpful to our hearings. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.